Today's top story, it comes from the governor of Illinois. Yes, J.B. Pritzker, a Trump nemesis, who, unlike the president, actually punches above his weight class. Now, he exposes Trump's sinister endgame last night on Rachel Maddow. Now, his prediction, as you're about to see, is alarming as it comes on the heels of a massive power play between Chicago and Washington. Let's catch up on the latest on that.
CBS News correspondent Usher Qureshi has more on the president's federalization of troops. Usher, good morning. You know, the administration authorized hundreds of National Guard members to be sent to where you are. Tell us about the preparations for that and the political reaction as well.
Good morning, Errol. Well, local officials have been saying for weeks that there is no need for federal troops here. Now, hundreds of members of Illinois National Guard could be on their way soon. Many could come from the Illinois Guard over objections from Governor J.B. Pritzker. Now, the governor's office said even leadership within the Illinois National Guard has communicated to the White House that the state does not require the military right now. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
They want mayhem on the ground. They want to create the war zone so that they can send in even more troops. Now they're claiming they need 300 of Illinois' National Guard. Well, we didn't need them before they showed up.
Now, according to this memo that we obtained by CBS News, those 300 members of the Illinois National Guard will be brought under federal service and deployed to, quote, protect federal property and government personnel performing federal functions. 400 Texas National Guard are to be split up between Chicago and Portland, Oregon, Errol.
Well, then, as Trump continues to create chaos, self-made chaos, on city streets and foment discord among Democratic governors all around the country, all under the politically flimsy guise of restoring order. Well, recently his efforts took a more ominous turn.
Breaking overnight, new moves and new threats by President Trump to send the National Guard into blue states over the objections of governors, even if it takes emergency powers to do it. The Republican governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, posted a picture showing National Guard troops from his state boarding a military aircraft. We're told the president has activated Texas troops to deploy to the Chicago area, where protesters have been clashing with ICE agents. Flight records appear to show the troops landed in neighboring Indiana overnight as they await what comes next. Now, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has called the mobilization an unconstitutional invasion. The city and state have sued over it, but a federal judge declined so far to immediately block the troop deployment in Chicago and has given the Trump administration until Wednesday night to respond to the suit. And if officials or courts stand in the president's way, the president says he could get around them by invoking the more than 200-year-old Insurrection Act.
So far, it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that.
Okay, that brings us to today's featured story from last night on MSNBC. Rachel Maddow and J.B. Pritzker hashed out the real reason Trump is playing Army, only, mind you, only in the nation's Democratic cities. Here's our featured story. It's a glimpse into a potentially bleak spring leading up to midterm elections and Trump's endgame goal.
Well, the broader goal, I believe, is the militarization of major American cities before the 2026 elections. Let me be clear about what's going on the streets of Chicago. They have dressed ICE and CBP in fatigues, put them in military gear, including with automatic weapons, and had them marching up and down major streets in downtown Chicago. It's a signal that they're trying to send that it's okay to have troops on your street, that this would be a welcome thing for people who live in Chicago. Nobody here welcomes it, by the way. I mean, literally, as they're walking down the street, people are yelling at them. But they think they can get people used to the idea. And next year, I fear that what they're going to do is deploy these folks eventually to polling places and say they're protecting the vote. Donald Trump knows that without shenanigans and without these breaches of the Constitution, that he's going to lose the Congress. And if he loses, he's going to immediately, in the aftermath of the election, do what he said he might do in 2020, which is use the military to confiscate the ballot boxes and count the votes, claiming that there's fraud. Remember, he's called up all 50 states' election data to the Department of Justice because they want to review all 50 states for fraud. And they won't tell you exactly what they're going to do, but I fear that these are all connected. And this militarization, even without National Guard or military troops on the ground, you're seeing ICE act like a militaristic organization. You're seeing CBP act like it. One more thing. CBP, I want to remind you, the Customs and Border Patrol, they're supposed to only operate within about 100 miles of a border. We're not anywhere near a border here in Chicago. So how can they operate here? Well, they're claiming that Lake Michigan, the shores of Lake Michigan in Chicago, those shores are the border of the United States. But Canada's an awful long way from here across Lake Michigan. So we know that they're using it again as a pretext. They want CBP here. Those are the folks that you saw in uniform marching up and down the streets. Greg Bovino, who led the effort in Los Angeles for the Customs and Border Patrol and ICE, is leading the effort here in Chicago. And you saw what happened in Los Angeles. They incited people, and they're doing that here in Chicago. We want them. I mean, if they're going to do that, they got to go. We honestly, they got to get the hell out of Chicago if that is their aim. But that is what Donald Trump, I believe, is trying to do, incite it so they can bring more troops in, invoke the Insurrection Act, and militarize Chicago and other major cities.
It sure seems that we've got work to do, so please like, subscribe, and share. That'd be a big first step to spreading the word. The word in this case, well, the last time enough Americans stepped into a voting booth, they may well have paved the way for this in the midterms. Well, that's at least according to J.B. Pritzker and anyone else possessed of the capacity to think for themselves.